I now welcome to the podium Dr. Donald Sebastian, who's president of the New Jersey Innovation Institute, who will introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you all. What a great turnout this morning. Those of you who have heard me speak before know that I usually lead off with some little snippet of technology history in the United States. Why? Because it's an important element of branding this state as the core of innovation that built the U.S. technology-based economy. And Newark was in the middle of it, and then NCE was in the middle of that. Great names like Thomas Edison, Willis Carrier, David Sarnoff, John D. Rockefeller, and even our founder, Edward Weston. What's missing in that list? No gender balance. And 100 years later, when I was a young freshman at Stevens, I entered what was an all-men's school, as most engineering schools were, either by design or de facto, with 450 freshmen. It was a year later that we admitted our first class of women, 12 brave young women who were smarter than the rest of us. One of them actually graduated in 3 years, along with my class, where 200 of our 450 didn't make it across the stage. And all of them have gone on to do great things. And later, one of our graduates, in fact, became a president in the Verizon system, Virginia Rooster-Holtz, who is, dare I say, already retired and is now chairman of the board at Stevens. What we found as I transitioned from student to faculty member was the importance of cohorts and the importance of role models in driving those cohorts, whether we were bringing in high school, young women in high school to begin to understand that if they were very much interested in the STEM fields, they may be one or two in their high school, but if you multiply that times the number of high schools in the country, there were many kindred spirits, and it had a huge effect in building an esprit de corps and a willingness to take that plunge into what seemed to be a hostile environment. But we still have a long way to go, right? We're still sort of plateaued at about 20%, and while there are many things that we can't fix ourselves in the pipeline, there are certainly many things we can do here, and that's why the Murray Center and its activities are so fundamentally important. And a day like today is a good example of how we bring ourselves together to celebrate those accomplishments. And role models, again, to demonstrate the pathway for you students, where you are today to where you can be in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. I hope will encourage you to stay the course even when the going gets tough. And so it's my privilege to present to you today one such role model. Alicia Eve is a Verizon Communications Vice President for State and Government Affairs for the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut region. She's responsible for the company's corporate interests that include public policy, government and external affairs, regulatory matters, and philanthropy across this entire tri-state region. Before she joined Verizon in 2013, she was the Deputy Secretary for Economic Development in New York. And we can all see on the TV every day some of the positive impact of steps that they are taking to both build the public perception as well as the reality in the state of New York as a resurgence of entrepreneurialism and technology-based economic development. She served in several capacities in the Cuomo administration and came to there from a rich career in Washington, D.C., where she was both a Senate counsel and Homeland Security advisor to Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, as well as counsel to then Senator Joseph Biden. She was well prepared for that role with an education that began with the AB degree at Smith College, the JFK School of Government, and MPA, and finally the JD degree from Harvard Law School. It is our great privilege to have her here to speak to us and offer the keynote address, both as a new friend and a longtime friend with Verizon. Thank you very much. Please.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much, Donald, for that introduction. And yes, I have been with Verizon just about 18 months, but I do feel very much that I am continuing an extraordinary tradition of a very strong, beautiful partnership between my company, Verizon, and NJIT. Doug Schonenberger, who's one of my colleagues here. Actually, I have a number of Verizon colleagues: Doug Schonenberger, John Banama, Loretta O'Neill, Cheryl Abdus-Salam, Ava Maria Medium. Have I got everybody? Yes. So fabulous colleagues who are one of the reasons why Verizon is so successful, and they also help me do my job, I believe, as effectively as I can. But one of my very first meetings when I assumed this role as Vice President for State Government Affairs was actually with President Bloom and Doug. I think it was like the first few weeks that I had started. So that says a lot. Given that I do have responsibility for 3 states where we employ 2215, almost 40,000 people. It's a testament to our relationship, and it's a testament to the importance of this wonderful institution that my meeting with President Bloom was literally one of the very first meetings in my role. Thank you, Nancy. In particular, and to President Bloom for the invitation. Loretta, who is my right hand, who makes sure that I, try and get to places on time and I stay relatively organized, knows how crazy the schedule is. And normally I think about it, or I'll talk to teammates and I'll say, okay, should I do this? Do we have time? And literally within probably, if not a few minutes, a few seconds, I hit reply and I said, I accept. It would be my pleasure and honor to be the morning keynote at the 20th anniversary celebration for all the reasons that have been articulated already by the president of the Innovation Center, by the provost, by Nancy, and of course by the wonderful president of this university. Most important, I want to have a great shout out to the students here. You are the innovators not only of tomorrow, but I bet a lot of you are innovating today. You don't necessarily even have to wait till you walk across the stage and get your degree to make a difference in the lives of your fellow New Jerseyans, the lives of people around this region and around the world. And it's one of the reasons why, as I mentioned, I was so honored to accept the invitation and to speak with you briefly this morning about one of, I believe, the most significant challenges, both in the private sector and frankly in government, in our region, in our state, in our country right now. And it's been referenced, and it's the theme of today, and that is we need to do all we can to ensure that the best and brightest, that's really all of you, have the support and have the focus you need, but really have the support you need to help solve some of the world's biggest challenges. The best and the brightest includes extraordinary men, but it also includes extraordinary women. Women of all backgrounds, women of all races, women of all ethnicities, women of all nationalities. I'm proud to work for a company that recognizes that fact. The communications industry, as my colleague Ava Marie, who is our point person with the New Jersey BPU, understands better than just about anybody, the communications industry is fiercely competitive. I know that many of you are probably sick of the various commercials from, not necessarily us, because our commercials are fabulous, but from our lesser competitors, right? And you see them no matter where you are walking or whatever you're doing on your smartphone or whatever you're watching on TV. The fact that you see as many commercials as you do is exhibit A, really, of the fiercely competitive nature in which our business operates. And when you operate in an industry like that, your number one priority is to hire the best and the brightest. And that's what we do under the leadership of my chairman and CEO, Lowell McAdam. He wants the very best and the brightest. That means he wants extraordinary men. That means he wants extraordinary women. Yes, it's the right thing to do. Yes, it's the moral thing to do. Yes, it's the good public policy thing to do. But first and foremost, it simply makes good business sense for the reasons that your provost articulated that were shared by one of your future students. And so we spend a lot of resources, both internally and externally, cultivating the next generation of leaders, cultivating the next generation of innovators. Verizon is indeed one of the top companies across the country for executive women. It's been named in 2015 by the NAVE top companies for executive women. And the organization is specifically called the National Association for Female Executives, which really sets a gold standard for how major corporations ought to be conducting their business and supporting the next generation of women leadership. For 9 straight years, we've been ranked by Working Mother magazine as among the best companies for multicultural women. And obviously, as a woman of African descent, that is of particular importance to me. We were recognized by Black Enterprise magazine as one of the 40 best companies in America because of the strength of our diversity, both on the gender side and in terms of ethnicity, recognizing that, again, that the best and the brightest come from all communities and all genders. Our board is one of the most diverse of any Fortune 100 company in America, with 4 out of our 10 seats being held by women and 4 out of our 10 seats being held by people of color. I am proud to work for a company that has an extraordinary breadth of talented women that are at the helm holding key positions. Some of them, Marnie Walden, the Executive Vice President and President of Product and New Business Innovation. Resting on her shoulders is building the Verizon of tomorrow. Judy Spitz is the Senior Vice President and CIO for our Information Technology Group. Nikki Palmer is the Senior Vice President and Chief Network Officer of Verizon Wireless. The reason why we have the best-in-class wireless network, not only in America, but frankly on the planet, is in large part because of the leadership and the work that is led by Nikki Palmer. Nancy Clark is Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for Telecom and Wireless. Tammy Irwin is President of National Operations for the Verizon Telecom business. Rose Kirk is President of the Verizon Foundation and VP of Global Corporate Citizenship. These are just a few, literally just a few, of the extraordinary women who I'm proud to call my colleagues. We are a leader in this and in so many other ways, but fortunately, we are, but unfortunately, Verizon all too often is this wonderful exception to a not great norm. As has been mentioned earlier, women make up half of this country's workforce, but hold just about 25% of the jobs in technology fields. You are here. I don't need to talk to you at great length about why STEM is important, but it does bear emphasizing that 80% of all jobs over the next decade will require STEM skills. The $10 million job figure that was mentioned earlier, in terms of jobs that will be available in the STEM fields by 2020, well, almost 25% of those 2.6 million STEM jobs, it's expected that unless we do something differently, unless colleges and universities and businesses like NJIT are going to do something differently, like what you're doing here at the Murray Center, that 2.6 million of those millions of jobs will go unfilled. Occupations related to STEM are projected to increase by more than 9% by 2022. African Americans comprise 11% of the workforce, but only 6% of the STEM workforce. The Hispanic share of the national workforce is 15%, but just 7% of the STEM workforce. We as a society, and I say this working for one of those most extraordinary corporations in the country, but also as someone who has actually spent the vast majority of her career in public service working for 2 United States senators and for a governor. We've got to figure this out, and we've got to figure it out quickly. And I believe, not only for all the reasons that you're familiar with, but because I believe that the STEM fields in particular are where we will find answers to solve some of our biggest challenges in both the private sector and in government. I'm a lawyer by training, as you heard. I'm a policy wonk by nature. I love what I do. I actually think it's pretty important, and I think I do a pretty good job at it. But frankly, when I see a young person who I think has even the slightest aptitude in a science or math class, I say become a scientist, become an engineer, become a mathematician. Yes, lawyers and policy wonks, we do good work. We're important folks, and we, help do good things for our communities. But I believe scientists and engineers and mathematicians, you all are going to rule the world. And more importantly, you are going to be the problem solvers of today and tomorrow. If you're a lover of technology history, you'll appreciate how much technology has improved our lives. And I just want to hold up something that I know probably everybody has in their hand. I've got kind of the bigger Samsung. I'm not necessarily a small smartphone person. I've got bad eyes, so I'm a big smartphone person. A lot of you probably don't remember the 1980s, and most of you, or many of you, were not even born in 1980. But what I'm holding in my hand is basically a handheld and very powerful computer. The memory and the power in this smartphone 25 years ago, 30 years ago, used to require so many computers that were bigger than I am, wider than I am, and that could take up the basement of an office building. And now that power and that memory is in the palm of my hand. That is just one of the many ways, one of the thousands, one of really frankly the innumerable ways that technology has changed. Fast forward to today, and there are innumerable ways in terms of how technological innovations have made a real difference in our lives, and in so many areas, from education to healthcare, transportation, even to entertainment. And you're going to hear a lot about that from my fellow keynote speaker, Danielle Feinberg, later today. We're here in this room, 10 to 15 minutes from New York City, the fashion capital of the world, where technology has even transformed that industry in terms of wearable technology. Now, some of you are probably thinking about Google Glass, which is cool, or you're thinking about the iWatch, but that really is just the tip of the iceberg. I actually read an article yesterday that talked about Burberry. Some of you fashionistas out there know that this is a kind of a high-end fashion house that has raincoats and other design wear. Well, in its flagship stores in London and Hong Kong and Chicago, there are mirrors throughout the store that become screens showcasing catwalk images. There is no regular, traditional cash register in these stores. Everything is processed through mobile technology with folks walking around with something where you can slide through or bounce up your smartphone to pay for your items. There are even mirrors within the dressing rooms where when you're trying on this coat that is way too expensive that Burberry wants you to think about buying, images can pop up the screen where you are juxtaposed into an environment where the rain is pouring down that underscores why you must buy that very expensive raincoat. Absolutely fascinating. There's another company that specializes in using cutting-edge technology in terms of marketing fashion, and it's helped you create a fabric that changes color when certain pollutants are present and interact with the fabric. A sensor detects the color change and uploads the results into a central database. Now, that sounds kind of like, all right, that might be kind of cool, colors are changing, that's kind of a neat thing to think about in terms of, my fashion sense and what I might want to wear, this coming weekend. But wearable technology is not just for fashionistas. It's also for our first responders. Think about how wearable technology can help our men and women who are serving overseas, or who are our cops and firefighters right here. Matter of fact, if you go to the United States Department of Homeland Security's website and look under the Science and Technology Directorate, you'll find actually a focus by that directorate on wearable technology. It actually has a mission to focus on a number of innovative products that will help first responders serving our country and keeping us safe, both here and abroad. The directorate is focused on how first responders can more safely detect bombs. And so there's a program, there's an app actually, that can be downloaded where 3D printing can be used to create and assemble products that will be used to develop a robot that at a distance can detect a potential bomb so that you don't have to have a human being do it. And recently you may have read in the local papers that New York City has a pilot program using a new technology called ShotSpotter that works like a GPS triangulation system. Basically, if shots are fired, ShotSpotter can use a GPS-like system to locate the source of the shots, transmit it to the New York Police Department command center, and help the local first responders more quickly identify the location from where the shots are fired, even if not one person ever calls 911. Technology has been used in myriad ways, not just in terms of wearable technology for fastenesses and first responders, but obviously also in the healthcare field. One example that I just want to mention that some of you may have seen on national television a few months ago. There was a young man, 15 years old, Exhibit A of how you don't have to wait till you're the ripe old age of 50 to make a difference in the world. 15-year-old was concerned about his grandfather, who has Alzheimer's. It affects tens of millions of Americans. Many of you probably have family members who have Alzheimer's. And he was concerned that his grandfather was always wandering off and was at risk of hurting himself or getting hit by a car or something. And so, this young man, 15 years of age, developed a sensor that would be placed in his father's shoe, attached to actually his father's sock, so that when he drifted off in a certain direction, the sensor would go off. Now, you might say, oh, that's kind of a more updated version of what a criminal who was serving time at home might wear in terms of an ankle bracelet. But this was a very sensitive sensor that anybody could really use that was attached to his clothing. Long story short, this 15-year-old's innovation is transforming how we care for Alzheimer's patients. The head of the primary association representing the interests of Alzheimer's patients said on national TV that this 15-year-old's innovation is going to transform how we care for some of our most precious relatives who are in need and need our help. Or take Smart Vision, a Powerful Answers Award winner. Our Powerful Answers Award, many of you are familiar with. This is an award that Verizon gives out every year. The top prize is actually $1 million, but we give out these awards in a number of areas: education, healthcare, sustainability, and transportation. It's a multi-million dollar, eventually it'll be billion, over the course of the years, but it's a multi-million-dollar competition where we're really trying to encourage innovation, not only by large companies, but small and individual innovators as well. A couple of years ago, Smart Vision Labs of New York City earned the top prize in the healthcare category. What was the instrument? 500 million people around the world don't have quality eye care, not only in many developing countries, but right here in the United States. And for those of you who wear prescription glasses, typically you have to go to the doctor's office. They put the big machine in front of your eye. They measure how good or how bad your eyesight is. Then the doctor writes a prescription. You go order your glasses. You wait a couple of weeks. Your glasses come in. If you're in school or your work, this takes up a lot of time to figure this all out. Well, Smart Vision Labs came up with an app that can be downloaded in your smartphone, no matter where you are. If you've got a robust wireless network like the one Verizon provides, you put the smartphone in front of your eye, you take a picture, it is downloaded across the most fabulous, robust wireless network on the planet. It goes to the doctor's office, who sends you a prescription back to your phone, or better yet, directly to the pharmacist or wherever you order your prescription glasses, and your prescription is ordered. Seems very simple, but imagine the power of that. Not only for someone in the developing world, but people who are right here at home who can't afford to take time off to go to the doctor, or who can't afford, an extra doctor visit, or for some of you who are cramming for school, you broke your glasses, you need them right away, you do this, the glasses are ordered, and you pick them up moments later. I learned when I was in the ladies' room, actually, that one of the recent winners, a $500,000 winner, is Web Team Corporation. All the wonderful things you learn in the ladies' room. It's not just the men's room anymore. Web Team Corporation is a company that was one of our $500,000 education winners. It showcased a solution that uses mobile and touchscreen computing to create new products and autism intervention services for the education and healthcare industries. It's based in Franklin Township, but it has its heart and soul and its operations in the incubator that's associated with NJIT. So you've got one of your businesses in your incubator that won a $500,000 prize from Verizon. Those are just a couple of many ways in which innovations of today are going to transform our lives today, and all the things that you're going to innovate are going to transform our lives for tomorrow. I am proud to work for a company that is such a partner. We've got brilliant scientists both within the company and then with brilliant ones that we partner with externally. But frankly, a lot of this innovation would not be possible if you didn't have a robust communications network where you can transfer this information. We do, in fact, have the most reliable and the largest 4G LTE network in the United States. But in all seriousness, one of the reasons why we do is because we spend a whole lot of money every year to make sure that happens. The telecommunications industry and the cable industry really deserve kudos. The Progressive Policy Institute every year ranks industries across the country in terms of their capital investment. The telecommunications and cable industry are always at the top of the list. And within this group, Verizon excels. Last year alone, Verizon invested more than $15 billion in the United States in capital investments alone, more than ExxonMobil, more than Chevron, and more than Walmart. And so what we do every day, we are so proud of because of what we make possible. We have innovation centers in California and Massachusetts where some of you may have really interesting ideas that you want to develop, and you probably have the facilities right here at NJIT, but if you've got a great idea and you want access to some of our tools, some of our machineries, and to get a sense of whether your innovation really can be marketable and can effectively work in a regular environment, you can actually partner with scientists who are at our innovation centers who are creating wonderful products and services each and every day. The last thing that I'll mention just in terms of innovation is we are so pleased to partner with companies, small and large, like WebTeam, to support innovative products and services that really can transform how we work and how we play and how we learn. But the other fabulous thing about our networks is that we have enabled whole industries to develop that didn't develop before, that didn't exist before. So take Airbnb, for example. I assume just about everybody is familiar with Airbnb. In the last 6 years, Airbnb has serviced 17 million guests. It took the company 4 years to serve its first million guests, but in last year it served 17 million. And now each and every month, it serves more than 1 million guests worldwide. It has 800,000 listings in 35,000 cities in 192 countries. It was founded in 2008 and is currently valued at $10 billion. Airbnb, founded in 2008, 7 years ago. Current valuation, $10 billion. By comparison, Marriott International, bricks and mortar, great company, I've stayed in many of their hotels, started its first hotel in 1957, almost 6 decades ago, and is valued at $15 billion. Marriott International, 60 years old, valued at $15 billion. Airbnb, because of robust networks like the one Verizon provides, 7 years old, valuation $10 billion. These are just some of the many ways that we play in the innovation space, and frankly, it's in large part not because of me, but because of these really super smart scientists, your peers, that are proud to call Verizon home. We've got about 170,000 plus employees worldwide, 15,000 who call New Jersey home. We've got 3,000 plus in Basking Ridge, which I call the mothership of Verizon, where our C-suite is located, and the billions of dollars of investment not only across the country, but right here in New Jersey. Let me close by briefly mentioning our philanthropic efforts, which Doug leads on my team for the tri-state region, but about which I'm very proud in terms of Verizon's commitment overall. You may recall President Obama had an event at the White House last year, and he asked basically technology companies and communication companies that are in our space to help him with philanthropic efforts to increase the technological capability of schools across the country, to increase the technological level of education among many of our teachers, particularly in our public schools. I'm so proud of a company that did not take a breath before it said to the president, we're all in for $100 million. We're all in for $100 million. And that work has played out in so many different ways, including in terms of some of the support that we have provided to NJIT and that we will be providing in the summer in terms of the Girls Who Code program, to encouraging the folks who are about 10 years behind you, girls who have your love of science and your love of mathematics and your love of engineering, cultivating that love so that they will be sitting in your seats 10 years from now, ready to create innovations that will solve the problems of their generation. But the Verizon Innovation Learning Schools, the Verizon Mobile Learning Academy, the Verizon Innovation App Challenge, these are all programs that we are so proud to support that encourage innovation at the youngest of ages, both young girls and young boys. Yes, I've had the pleasure of being a member of the Verizon family for just about 18 months, but I think you now have a little bit better of a sense of why I actually love what I do, and I'm so proud to call Verizon my workplace home, especially since it is so proud to continue to call New Jersey its home. I think one of the provosts mentioned that you have a family of 5. I've got 4 brothers. So my parents had 5 children. Love all my brothers dearly. Love my father dearly. Love him more than any other man on earth, because I haven't found, the one I want to marry yet. So if anybody has any ideas, send him my way. Very close to my mother, who's one of my best friends. But, got a lot of male friends, got some great guys on my team. But I got to tell you, one of the reasons why I said immediately that I would be honored and pleased to address you this morning, and just looking out at all of you, it just kind of reaffirms that my split-second decision to say yes was the right one. Love my brothers and love my dad dearly, but I got to tell you, just being in a room full of very, very smart women and some very smart guys, not as many of you, but being in a room of some very, very smart women gives me such hope, such optimism for the future, not only for my company and other companies, but really for our communities, our state, and our country. I believe that that all of you and your peers in institutions across New Jersey and across the country, you've got the intellectual firepower. You have the creativity to tackle any problem, to develop solutions that are going to make our world safer, are going to make it cleaner, make it more beautiful, make it more fun. You'll hear that from your keynote speaker at lunch. To make it healthier, to make it greener, to make it a more sustainable place, especially with Earth Day being tomorrow. You have the intellectual firepower, you have the creativity. Despite the enormous challenges that we face as a society, as a country, as a planet, I know that you are up to the challenge to help address some of those problems. And so in advance, I wish you success in your efforts, and I thank you, and I applaud you now for all the things that I know in the future, all the great things that I know that you will in fact accomplish. Thank you so very much.
Okay, listen up in a second, and then we'll have a little bit more fluidity.
Sure. So for people who didn't hear it, basically, thank you for the question. So his question basically was, Verizon's a leader. How do you do what you do? Frankly, it does start with the top. I mean, you, just like in any environment, whomever is leading the institution, in this case it's President Bloom or it's your director here. In our case, it starts with the top, where Lowell McAdam is saying, I want the best and the brightest. And that doesn't mean half of the folks who are available. It doesn't mean just men. It means men and women. How that plays out specifically in really a numerable number of ways. But let me just give you a couple of examples. We spend anywhere from $300 to $400 million a year, $300 to $400 million a year on training for Verizon employees, men and women, in terms of their technological capabilities as well as their leadership skills. And so somebody who might be coming in who's very bright but maybe doesn't have necessarily leadership skills that somebody else may have more innately gets internal training within the company to help them excel. That really sets Verizon apart from so many other companies who frankly don't spend close to $500 million focusing each and every year on taking the wonderful employees that it has and making them even better. Frankly, it comes from doing very significant outreach. I know Verizon spends time on the NJIT campus. NJIT is a leader in terms of focusing on having a more diverse workforce in terms of both women, but also in terms of people of color and people from different ethnicities and backgrounds. And so we also partner with institutions that get it, like NJIT gets it. Many other ways, but I would say leadership, putting your money where your mouth is. What you spend your money on is a reflection of what you care about. And so the fact that we do spend those significant resources to both recruit but cultivate the leadership and technological skills of our employees really does make a difference. And then partnering with wonderful institutions who are like-minded, who get the importance of a diverse workforce, partnering with institutions like NJIT.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very